we can start, I think.
Great.
And hi, Mr. Wallach. So today I want to ask you a few questions about my personal project. So the first question is, well, I used to claim the relationship between the CPU and the motherboard are more likely to be the brain and body. However, I do not think it is a perfect metaphor for now. By considering the CPU is not only controlling the motherboard itself, here is also another other things as well. How do you describe this relationship? Would you like to give an exact reason for your discrimination?
Let's start with the CPU. It's a bit of an exaggeration to compare the CPU to the human brain on all terms. That is, the brain can perform a number of activities and can think in different ways than a CPU does, but they have a great deal in common. What's the purpose of the brain? The brain, like the CPU, uses information that is gathered by the senses in order to help the body survive. It manages information and it uses the rest of the body to gather information and act on it. The CPU is similar, and the CPU compares information, performs arithmetic, has different kinds of memory, all similar to the brain. Likewise, the brain has many structures that are specialized in order to handle memory, as well as abstract thinking, emotions, and communication. And a CPU also has subparts, such as the arithmetic and logic unit, registers, random access memory. All of these subparts, they work on chunks of data and pass them along to other parts in an organized way. In this way, you have a great deal in common with the brain. As for the motherboard, I would say that the body is not the perfect metaphor. I would choose one of two others, either the skeleton or the spinal cord. So the skeleton works because, much like our muscles and organs in our body connected to the skeleton, the motherboard connects everything together in the computer, simply put. That said, there's something to be said for the metaphor of the spinal cord, which in the body passes electrical signals up to the brain. It's a conduit for signals from other body parts that are funneled upwards, and the motherboard, just like the spinal cord, doesn't process any of these electrical signals that ride along the data buses. So I think that one of these two metaphors is applicable. Either the spinal cord or the skeleton, both in terms of how they connect the CPU to the rest of the body.
Okay, thanks. And uh, the second question is, well, we talked about the market of CPU in 2017, and we said the new Ryzen 7 CPU would be our choice in our conclusion, right? So, well, however, the only thing that we missed is the new 8th generation's Intel processor is already come to the marketplace right now. As many reviewers appeared, the new i7-18700X, I think 18700K is actually being better than the top tier of Ryzen 7 in many areas, but also a higher cost. The problem is that do I need to spend extra money for paying extra performance? Considering that my goal is to beat Mac Pro to show the advantage my custom PC, but its exact performance is still unclear and lack of real evidence. So, how do you think?
We can't predict the future. We can't predict when a better processor will come out precisely. We cannot predict at what date, at what cost it will arrive. And given the information you had at the time, purchasing the Ryzen 7 1800X, especially given the goal of your project, I would say was the best choice. you're right that if you compare the two of them, one, the Ryzen 3.6 gigahertz, the other, the 8700K 3.7 gigahertz, you have faster single core speed and quad core speed on the 8th generation Intel processor. You have a faster turbo frequency. Things are a little bit faster, but as you put it, it's more expensive. And the big part of your project is creating an optimized PC within the constraints of a budget. So along those lines, I think that you can still absolutely succeed in your project with the Ryzen 7 1800X. And in the future, if you want to change around your PC, you can go for it. But by that time, there will probably already be something newer and better available.
Yes, yes, that's right. And also about the market things. Well, considering the huge increase in the price tag of the memory in 2017, and there are pretty much rumors on the internet. Would you like to tell me some truth or real causes of this market pattern?
The truth, no matter how you interpret it, is that it is always a question of supply and demand. Always supply and demand. And in many cases, price is completely separate from the cost of manufacturing them. And there were a number of situations this year that caused a shortage in supply while demand went up. One was the transition between DDR3 and DDR4. Others, the influx of smartphones that require 6 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM going forward. There were a number of disasters in factories. There was an NAND producing factory that was destroyed in a fire. Suffice to say, even though the supply of RAM went down and the prices went up, my hypothesis is that producers realized that even after prices went up, people were still buying RAM at increased prices. And along those lines, why would they decrease the prices if people are still buying when it's more expensive? So along those lines, factory issues, market conditions of new smartphone requirements, and potentially competitive issues as well, but let's stick to those for now because that's what we can guarantee, and we can also guarantee that if this continues, RAM's only going to get more expensive.
Yes, and and actually the fourth one, and is that paying extra money for a super fast SSD necessary? Well, I mean those kinds of SSD which need to be cost 3,000, 4,000 RMB, and also my budget is also limited. Is that really affect a lot of performance differences or users experience? Well, also consider that the Mac Pro contains a really fast SSD in the format of RAID 0.
It depends what you want to do with it, and it depends what your priorities are. Solid-state disks have much faster read times since there's no moving head, and they start up faster since there's no need to spin. So who would be the consumers that would benefit most from solid-state drives? The consumers that would benefit most would be those that use a lot of applications and launch, let's say, slow-loading applications like Photoshop every time they boot up the computer. For users that are okay with an increased boot time, if you're okay waiting a little longer for your computer to start up, it doesn't really make much of a difference. As well, if you're the kind of user that primarily uses your computer to check your email, surf the web, write documents, you won't notice the benefits of a solid-state disk that much. Websites won't load any faster. And if you're only launching a handful of applications, then likely isn't worth a multi-$100 upgrade just to see them launch a few seconds faster. So in the context of your project and the context of what you're trying to accomplish, I would say that a solid-state drive is a nice to have, but not an essential.
Oh, okay. So, well, the final question is that, well, actually due to, wait. Well, actually that's the end. That's all of my questions about